Chapter 1. Broken Dreams. In the entertainment industry, a world of fame and fortune surrounded by spotlights and halos, Megan was once one of the shining new stars. She is young and beautiful, with long golden hair falling down her back like a waterfall, and her blue eyes sparkling with a fiery passion for performing arts. With infinite longing for a career in the performing arts, she stepped into this circle full of temptations and dangers. Mark, Megan's agent, is a shrewd and sophisticated man. He has a meticulously combed back hair, and every time he meets Megan he always has a seemingly friendly smile on his face, but that smile hides a calculation of interests. At first, Mark took on a lot of easy and quickly popular jobs for Megan, such as flying guests on popular variety shows and shooting print advertisements for well-known brands. These opportunities allowed Megan to quickly stand out in the entertainment industry. "Megan, I spent a lot of effort to get the invitation to this variety show this time. If you perform well, you will have a bright future in the future." Mark smiled and handed Megan the schedule, his eyes full of concern. Megan's eyes were red with excitement. She held Mark's hand tightly with both hands and her voice was trembling. "Mark, thank you so much. I don't know how to repay you. I will definitely listen to you in the future." Since then, Megan has become more dependent on Mark at work and obeyed his words. Megan, the other party's bid for this advertising endorsement is very high, which is also very helpful for your exposure. You must perform well," Mark said while gently patting Megan's shoulder with his hand, but his eyes were always fixed on the contract in his hand. Megan naively believed in Mark. She didn't know what kind of deal was hidden behind this so-called good opportunity. When she came to the shooting site, she found that the advertiser had made excessive demands on her. Megan was shocked and stared at Mark angrily, asking, "This is different from what you said. Why did you lie to me?" Mark just shrugged and said indifferently, "In this circle, if you want to succeed, you always have to pay a price." And Megan's lover Brian, handsome in appearance, always with a charming smile, but full of ambition in his heart. In front of Megan he is full of affection, often saying gently, "Baby, you are the best, I will always support you." Every time Megan shoots until late, he will thoughtfully prepare hot coffee and snacks and wait patiently on the set. Until one time Brian went to the set to visit. Megan was shooting and he was bored and wandering around the set. At this time Alicia, the daughter of the Capital Group, passed by with a crowd. Brian's sight was instantly attracted by her. His eyes were shining and his eyes were full of greed and desire. He couldn't help but adjust his collar, raised the corners of his mouth, and showed what he thought was the most charming smile, trying to attract Alicia's attention. Alicia just glanced at him lightly and turned away, but Brian was like a possessed person, staring at her leaving back, unable to recover for a long time. At the industry awards ceremony that attracted the attention of the entire entertainment industry, Megan was like a carefully polished bright diamond, shining with confidence. She wore a gorgeous and slim black evening dress, which perfectly outlined her graceful figure, and the hem of her skirt swayed gently like black waves. The exquisite makeup highlighted her bright blue eyes, like a deep ocean, and her carefully groomed long golden hair was elegantly draped over her shoulders. Every strand seemed to tell her importance of this awards ceremony. Megan was full of confidence in her acting skills in the independent film. During the filming, she immersed herself in the role, repeatedly pondering every scene and every line, striving to achieve perfection. The director often gave her high praise and affirmation in the intervals between shooting, patting her on the shoulder with his eyes full of praise. "Megan, your performance is so contagious. This role seems to be tailor-made for you. You are a natural actor." These words were like warm sunshine, illuminating Megan's heart and making her look forward to the Best Newcomer award this time. Her agent Mark was standing aside with a seemingly sincere smile on his face, constantly praising, "Megan, you will definitely win the award this time and your career will be even better by then." Her lover Brian also held her hand tightly and coaxed her gently, "Baby, you are so outstanding, who else can win the Best Newcomer award if not you? I can't wait to see you go on stage to receive the award." With their encouragement, Megan became more and more convinced that this time's Newcomer award was hers. When the host stood in the center of the stage holding the list of winners in his hand, cleared his throat and slowly read out the names of the winners, time seemed to freeze. The confident smile on Megan's face froze instantly, as if covered by a layer of frost. She stared at the man on the stage who was walking towards the podium triumphantly. Her mind was blank. How could it be possible? She worked so hard and got the director's recognition. How could it not be her who won the award? At the same time, the whispers of people around her were like sharp needles piercing Megan's heart. Why didn't she win the award? I thought it must be her. Maybe there is something fishy behind it. Megan's heart was bleeding, but the stubbornness in her bones surged up instantly. She raised her chin slightly, took a deep breath, and secretly cheered herself up in her heart. I can't lose my composure here. This is just a small setback. I can't be defeated. She tried to hold back the tears that were about to burst out of her eyes, pretended to be calm, put on a faint smile on her face again, and watched the award ceremony on the stage quietly. Although the blow of missing the Best Newcomer award was as heavy as a boulder, Megan's unyielding spirit soon prevailed. She quickly cheered up, and the next day after the awards ceremony, she took the initiative to contact Mark to discuss the follow-up work arrangements, trying to get out of the haze of failure as soon as possible and re-enter the acting career she loves. However, what Megan never expected was that her peaceful life was completely broken in an instant. Without any warning, overwhelming negative news hit her like a surging tide. On the internet and in newspapers, there were false revelations and malicious slander about her everywhere. Some articles fabricated that she was a big shot on the set and bossed the staff around. Some maliciously speculated that she had an improper transaction with the director to get the opportunity to perform. Even worse, she made a fuss about her private life and made up all kinds of unbearable rumors. These false statements were like an invisible big net, trapping Megan tightly, leaving her speechless. No matter how she explained, she was drowned in the clamor of public opinion by those with ulterior motives. Megan panicked and found Mark anxiously, with tears in her eyes and her voice trembling with excitement and grievance. Mark, look at these, they are all fake. You should think of a way to help me clarify it, and I can't let these rumors ruin me. As she said, she handed the page full of negative news on her mobile phone to Mark, and her hands couldn't help shaking slightly. Mark just glanced at it quickly, and a trace of imperceptible evasion flashed across his face. Then he perfunctorily reached out and patted Megan's shoulder, comforting her in a flat tone. Don't worry, this kind of thing is very common. After a while, everyone will forget it and it will pass. But in fact, under the temptation of interests, Mark had already secretly reached a deal with those forces who tried to discredit Megan. In order to get more benefits for himself, he gave up Megan without hesitation and let her fend for herself in the storm of public opinion. Anne Bryan, who once said that he would always accompany and support her, disappeared without a trace at this moment. Megan called him countless times, but no one answered at first, and then the calls were directly transferred to voicemail. Until she was almost desperate, Bryan's cold voice finally came from the other end of the phone. Megan, we are not suitable, let's break up. Those few short words, like a sharp blade, pierced Megan's heart. Megan's hand holding the phone drooped weakly and tears burst out uncontrollably. She could never have imagined that the vows she had made were so vulnerable at this moment. On that rainy night, the wind was howling and hitting the windows, and the big raindrops hit the glass, making a dull and desperate sound. Megan curled up alone in the corner of the dim room, and the darkness around her seemed to swallow her. Recalling the continuous blows, the collapse of her career, the betrayal of her lover, and the abandonment of her friends, her heart was completely filled with despair. In this endless darkness and pain, Megan was discouraged and finally chose to end her young and hopeful life. Chapter 2: Rebirth and Awakening. Megan's consciousness slowly returned in the darkness. Her head was dizzy, as if it had been hit by a heavy hammer. Her eyelids seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and it took a lot of effort to slowly open them. What caught her eye was the familiar and slightly old ceiling, and on the wall were photos of her and some actors from a small crew when she first entered the industry. The edges of the photos were a little yellowed. She lay on the narrow single bed, stunned for several seconds, and then she realized that she had returned to the small apartment she rented when she first entered the entertainment industry. What's going on? Didn't I already? Megan muttered to herself, her voice hoarse with just waking up. She sat up suddenly, her head was dizzy, her heart was beating violently in her chest, and the unbearable scenes of her previous life kept flashing in her mind. The despair of missing the trophy at the awards ceremony, the overwhelming malicious rumors, Mark's betrayal, Bryan's ruthlessness, and the despair and helplessness of that rainy night. She jumped out of bed in a panic, walked barefoot to the table and grabbed her phone. With trembling fingers, she opened various news websites and social platforms. As expected, the news about her had long been forgotten, as if she had never caused a stir in the entertainment industry. The comment area that once criticized her was now deserted, and the occasional comments were just irrelevant jokes. Then she typed in Mark's name, and what came into her eyes were photos of him attending various high-end parties, surrounded by beautiful women and with a smug smile on his face. Then she searched for Brian, and he was going out with Alicia, the daughter of the Capital Group, and showing off their love on social media. In the photo, Brian hugged Alicia's waist tightly and smiled sweetly. Seeing these pictures, the pain and humiliation she had suffered surged into her heart like a surging tide. The flame of anger burned in Megan's chest. She tightly grasped the phone, her knuckles turned white due to the force, and the screen of the phone was almost crushed. "Wait, I won't let it go." Megan gritted her teeth and squeezed out these words from her teeth. The idea of revenge became more and more firm in her heart. Megan forced herself to calm down, sat on the edge of the bed, closed her eyes, and began to carefully recall every detail of the past. She remembered that when Mark took the job for her, it seemed that he was thinking about her, but in fact he was using her to get a high commission. Behind those so-called good opportunities, it was all his calculations for interests. Every time Mark came to her with a contract, his face was full of hypocritical smiles. He said that he was planning for her future, but his eyes were always on the numbers in the contract. And Brian, every time he acted affectionate in front of her, but when he met Alicia, she didn't notice the greed and desire in his eyes. Those dates that were once thought to be sweet, now recalling, Brian was always absent-minded, his eyes drifting to the rich kids passing by from time to time, or hiding his face when answering the phone with a panicked look. Recalling these, Megan couldn't help but smile bitterly. She finally saw the true colors of these two people, and realized how naive and stupid she was at the time. In the past, she placed all her trust and reliance on them, but ignored that in this entertainment industry full of temptations and traps, only her own strength is the foundation for a foothold. But now everything is still in time. Megan opened her eyes. Her eyes were full of determination and firmness. She secretly vowed that in this life she would not only make Mark and Brian pay a heavy price for what they did, but also rely on her own strength to reach the top of this entertainment industry that once hurt her and take back all the glory that belongs to her. She stood up, walked to the window, opened the curtains, and the sun instantly poured into the room, shining on her face, reflecting her resolute outline. A new life begins. Chapter 3. Chasing the Dream Again. With the determination to be reborn, Megan re-entered the entertainment industry. She knew that everything had to start from the bottom, so she started playing minor roles and frequently went to various small audition occasions. Every time she went to an audition, Megan prepared carefully. The night before the audition, she would read the script repeatedly, memorize the character's background, personality, and emotional changes, and practice expressions and movements in front of the mirror, striving for accurate interpretation. At the audition site, she always arrived early, waited quietly, observed the performance of other actors, and learned from experience. At the audition site of a small drama, the small room was crowded with young actors with dreams. Megan heard people around her talking about her. "Look, that's Megan, the one who was plagued by negative news before. Yeah, I don't know if I can turn over this time." She frowned slightly, bit her lower lip tightly, clenched her fists, but soon took a deep breath, adjusted her state, and told herself not to be affected by these remarks. When it was Megan's turn to perform, she quickly immersed herself in the role. Her voice was sometimes passionate and sometimes low, showing the character's inner struggle and persistence vividly. Her expression changed with the development of the plot, and her eyes were full of emotional tension. Director Taylor sat in the audience, and his hand, which was originally flipping through the materials casually, stopped, and his eyes could not move away from Megan. After the performance, Taylor walked up with an appreciative smile on his face. "Your performance is very contagious, and you have performed the soul of the character. I am looking forward to your performance in this drama." Megan's eyes flashed with surprise and excitement, and her eyes were slightly red. She held Taylor's hand tightly and her voice trembled slightly. "Really? Thank you so much, I will definitely not let you down." The rehearsal days were not easy. Some actors in the same group were cold to her because of her past. During a rehearsal of a rival play, Megan was concentrating on the performance, trying to establish a tacit understanding with the opponent actor and promote the development of the plot. But the opponent suddenly misread the lines and messed up the positioning, causing the whole scene to be in a mess. Megan subconsciously wanted to save the situation and gently reminded the other party, "Let's do it again. Pay attention to the lines and positioning this time." Unexpectedly, the other party pushed the responsibility onto Megan and loudly accused, "It's all because of you. You kept talking beside me. I couldn't act well because of you." The actors around cast strange glances at her. For a moment, the atmosphere in the rehearsal room became very awkward. Megan's face flushed instantly and grievance and anger intertwined in her heart. But her mind flashed with her determination to be reborn and the humiliation she had suffered. She secretly clenched her fists, suppressed her anger, took a deep breath and said calmly and firmly, "I didn't interfere with you. Everyone wanted to act well in this scene. Now is not the time to blame each other. Let's solve the problem and do it again." But the other party was relentless and wanted to continue arguing. At this time, Director Taylor came over and after understanding the situation he seriously criticized the actor. "Rehearsal is for running in. If there is a problem, solve it together. Don't waste time on meaningless quarrels." Under the mediation of the director, the other party finally stopped talking. Megan didn't care about it anymore, but took the initiative to analyze the script with the other party, patiently explaining the emotional logic and action points of the role. With her efforts, the two gradually regained their tacit understanding, and the play was able to be rehearsed smoothly. The performance venue of this drama is not large, but Megan goes all out every time she goes on stage. On the night of the performance, she was fully engaged on the stage, and her wonderful performance infected every audience in the audience. After the performance, the audience applauded, and Megan's eyes flashed with excited tears when she bowed. With this drama, she began to have some fame in the industry, and also reopened a door of hope for her acting career. Chapter 4: The Chess Game of Revenge. Megan steadily moved forward in her acting career while implementing her revenge plan in an orderly manner. She knew that in order to make Mark and Brian pay for what they had done, she had to catch their weak points. She found out that Mark was discussing cooperation with an important client recently, so she deliberately approached Jack, Mark's competitor. At an industry gathering, Megan pretended to chat with Jack casually. "Mr. Jack, I heard that you are competing with Mark for that big project recently?" Megan smiled, but there was a hint of cunning in her eyes. Jack looked at her warily and said, "Yes, what's wrong?" Megan moved closer and lowered her voice and said, "I know some of Mark's shady operations which may be helpful to you." Jack's eyes lit up instantly and he listened to Megan's story with interest, showing a surprised expression from time to time. Jack had long been dissatisfied with Mark. After getting this key information, he was like a treasure and immediately launched a fierce offensive against Mark in the business field. At the same time, Megan began to collect evidence of Brian's cheating and unfair competition. Through her old friends, she found photos of Brian having a tryst with the daughter of a capital investor, and also found out that he used unfair means to exclude competitors in some projects. She sorted out the evidence and sent it anonymously to the media and Brian's girlfriend's family. Soon after, Mark's cooperation projects fell through one after another, his agency's trust in him was greatly reduced, and his performance plummeted. At the same time, the evidence of Brian's cheating and unfair competition collected by Megan also played a role. After the media exposed it, Brian not only lost the trust of his girlfriend, but was also despised in the industry and his career plummeted. At first, Mark and Brian were still worried about their own predicaments, and they didn't realize that Megan was the initiator behind it. But as things developed, they vaguely sensed something was wrong and began to investigate everywhere. Mark used his connections in the circle to inquire about the news everywhere. And Brian also put down his status and asked his friends to help investigate. Finally, they found that all these changes were actually manipulated by Megan behind the scenes. The moment he learned the truth, Mark was so angry that his face turned blue. He punched the desk and roared, "This Megan, how dare she plot against me? I will never let her go." Brian also gritted his teeth with a fierce light flashing in his eyes. "I really underestimated her at the beginning. This time I must make her pay a heavy price." In order to save their decline, Mark and Brian decided to join forces. They found a secret place to meet, and after some conspiracy they made a plan to deal with Meghan. Mark relied on the resources he had accumulated over the years in the entertainment industry to contact some artists who were in competition with Meghan, trying to set up obstacles on Meghan's acting career. Brian used his ability to disguise himself to mix into Meghan's social circle and try to get her next plan. They also bought off some media, preparing to discredit Meghan again at a critical moment, wanting her to fall into the whirlpool of public opinion again and never turn over. Everything was ready. Mark and Brian smiled at each other, their eyes full of calculation and malice, quietly waiting for Meghan to step into the trap they set. At this time Meghan, although she didn't know that the two had joined forces, with the vigilance and sharpness brought by her rebirth, she vaguely felt that the danger was approaching. She did not retreat at all, but strengthened her determination and swore in her heart, "No matter what means you use, I will not be defeated again. This time I will definitely make you lose completely." Chapter 5. Peak Showdown. Meghan was shortlisted for the most important award in the industry for her stunning and superb performance in a blockbuster movie. Once the news came out, it was like a bombshell exploding in the entertainment industry, and the entire circle was shocked. People in the industry whispered to each other, looking at this re-emerging actress with surprise and concern. People talked about it on various occasions, speculating whether Meghan could win the championship this time and where her acting career would go. During the preparation of the award ceremony, Mark and Brian's two dark hearts did not stop calculating. They were like two cunning foxes, using all the relationships they had accumulated in the entertainment industry for many years, and they spent a lot of money to buy off some unscrupulous media who were only interested in profit. For a time, malicious rumors surged on the internet like a surging tide. Those reports wantonly distorted the facts, saying that Meghan was extremely arrogant during the filming of the movie, ordered the staff around at will, and flew into a rage when she was not satisfied. They also claimed that she did not respect the director and screenwriter's creation at all, arbitrarily tampered with the script, and completely ignored the efforts of others. They even maliciously fabricated that she did not hesitate to make improper transactions with the producer in order to get the role by unbearable means. These false news spread like a virus on major entertainment platforms at an alarming speed, and soon filled all entertainment pages, drowning Meghan in the storm of public opinion. Mark and Brian were like poisonous snakes hiding in a dark corner, watching the public opinion attack Meghan one-sidedly, with disgusting smug smiles on their faces. Mark lit a cigar, took a deep breath and then blew out a big smoke ring. The smoke lingered in front of him as if it was a symbol of his pride. He sneered, and the muscles on his face were twisted by this malicious smile. "This Meghan, she still wants to fight with us. She is simply overestimating herself. This time she must be completely finished, and can only get out of the entertainment industry obediently and never turn over again." Brian, who was standing aside, flashed a vicious light in his eyes and echoed, "That's right, let's see what tricks she can play this time. This time she must be smashed to pieces." They were full of hope that they could easily defeat Meghan again by repeating the same trick, so that she would never get ahead just like last time, messing up her life and career. When Meghan saw these overwhelming malicious news, her inner anger burned like a raging fire, her hands clenched into fists, and her nails almost embedded in her palms. But after all, she had experienced the baptism of rebirth, and she knew that panicking at this moment would only put herself in a more passive situation and would be useless. She suppressed her anger, and her mind quickly flashed through all the sufferings she had suffered. The pain of being betrayed and the despair of being slandered by rumors all turned into her firm motivation to move forward. Without any hesitation, she quickly contacted the reporter she had always trusted. Meghan handed over the hard evidence of Mark's illegal operations and Brian's scandal that she had collected long ago, and described in detail how the two had framed her for many years, as well as the conspiracy to discredit her again this time. Listening to Meghan's story, the reporter's face was full of shock, and his eyes were shining with the light of seeking the truth. He immediately said that he would go all out to investigate in depth, and must make the truth public and clear Meghan's name. On the night of the awards ceremony, Meghan wore a gorgeous red dress, like a burning flame, and stepped confidently onto the red carpet. Her appearance instantly attracted countless flashes, and those lights flickered like stars. Although she was still facing huge pressure from public opinion and heard doubts from the crowd from time to time, her eyes were as firm as a rock, Her steps were steady and powerful, and every step showed her confidence and fearlessness. Amid the applause and cheers of the audience, she walked steadily to the award ceremony, and her posture seemed to announce to the world that she would not be defeated by any difficulties. As the award ceremony progressed, the atmosphere became more and more tense, as if there was a trace of anxiety in the air. Everyone held their breath and stared at the stage. When the host finally announced the Best Actress award, the whole audience was so quiet that even the sound of a pin drop could be heard. Everyone held their breath and their hearts seemed to be in their throats. Megan sat in the audience, her heartbeat accelerated sharply, and she could clearly feel her heart beating violently in her chest, as if it was about to break through her chest. But she remained calm on the surface, with a faint smile on her face, and a hint of expectation and tension in her eyes. The winner of the Best Actress award is Megan. The loud voice of the host resounded throughout the audience like a bell. At that moment, Megan's eyes were moistened instantly, tears welled up in her eyes. She suppressed her excitement, took a deep breath, stood up slowly and then walked steadily to the stage. Her steps were a little hurried but extremely firm, and every step seemed to be on the road to glory after her rebirth. Standing on the podium, Megan held the trophy in her hand, feeling the weight of the trophy. Her eyes slowly swept across the audience, seeing the appreciation and praise, and also caught the faces of Mark and Brian full of unwillingness and anger. She took a deep breath, calmed down and said, "At this moment, standing here holding this trophy in my hand, I am extremely excited. But I know that this honor not only belongs to me, it belongs to everyone who still sticks to his dream and never gives up in difficult situations. Once I was trapped in darkness, surrounded by lies and malice. My career collapsed and my trust was broken. Those days were the most difficult times in my life. But I always believe that the truth will defeat lies, and persistence will usher in the dawn. This experience made me understand that setbacks are not the end but the ladder of growth. I want to thank the fans who have always supported me. It is your trust that gives me the courage to move forward. Thank my team for not abandoning me in difficult times. I also want to thank those who have tried to defeat me. It is your difficulties that make me stronger. This award is a recognition of my efforts, and it is also an encouragement to all those who are struggling on the road to pursuing their dreams like me. In the future, I will take this honor and continue to forge ahead on the road of performing arts, and give back to everyone with better works." Megan's voice was firm and powerful, echoing in the venue. The applause from the audience was thunderous and lasted for a long time. Mark and Brian were so shocked when they heard the result that their eyes widened. The smug smiles on their faces were blown away by a gust of wind and disappeared without a trace, replaced by disbelief and extreme anger. The wine glass in Mark's hand fell to the ground with a snap, and the crisp sound of breaking seemed to be a symbol of the collapse of their conspiracy. His mouth was wide open, his eyes were full of shock and unwillingness, and he seemed unable to accept this fact. Brian gritted his teeth in anger, clenched his fists, and his joints turned white due to the force. His eyes seemed to be spewing fire, staring at Megan, who walked onto the stage, and the jealousy and resentment in his heart reached a peak. They never thought that Megan could turn the tide and win the grand prize under such a fierce public opinion offensive. However, their nightmare was far more than that. A few days later, when Mark and Brian were still plotting to buy off more media and spread more false news in an attempt to bring Megan down again, the police suddenly came to their door like a god. After showing their credentials, the police took them away for investigation without mercy. It turned out that the evidence provided by Megan was conclusive and sufficient. After in-depth investigation, the police had already obtained ironclad evidence of Mark and Brian's crimes. When they were taken to the police car, their faces were full of fear and despair, and their former arrogance was gone. Mark's eyes were full of confusion and regret, while Brian lowered his head, his body trembling slightly, and he no longer had the arrogance of the past. After Megan learned the news, she just stood in front of the window looking into the distance with a faint smile on her face. She knew that her long road to revenge had finally come to a successful conclusion. And her acting career, after going through ups and downs, is now truly like the rising sun, just beginning, and the future is full of infinite possibilities. Chapter 6. A New Path. After the award ceremony, Megan became a hot star in the entertainment industry. Her name frequently appeared on the front pages of major media, and film contracts and endorsements came one after another. But Megan was not overwhelmed by the sudden fame and fortune. She knew that her achievements today were inseparable from the hardships and persistence in the past. Megan set up her own personal studio. The decoration of the studio is simple but stylish. Every detail shows her persistence and pursuit of her acting career. She personally selected team members from agents to assistants, and everyone has a love for art and persistence in their dreams. Megan often said to the team, "We want to create a different performing arts space together, so that truly talented people can shine here." After the establishment of the studio, Megan focused on discovering new talents with potential. She personally reviewed the resumes and audition videos of each newcomer. Once she found a newcomer with shining points, she would give them careful guidance and rare opportunities. Once, a fledgling young actor did not perform well in the audition because of nervousness, but Megan saw the desire for performance in his eyes. She walked over, patted the young man on the shoulder, smiled and said, "Don't be nervous, I see your potential, try again and act according to your true feelings." With Megan's encouragement, the young man gradually relaxed and showed amazing talent when he performed again. At a film industry exchange meeting, Megan met Lucas, a young and promising producer. Lucas has an upright figure, deep and bright eyes, and exudes confidence and calmness in his every move. He has unique insights and keen insight into movies, and has already made a name for himself in the industry. During the exchange, the two coincided with the concept of film art. From script writing to shooting techniques, to the values conveyed by the film, they chatted enthusiastically as if they had found a soulmate. After the exchange, Lucas took the initiative to invite Megan for coffee, and Megan readily agreed. In the cozy cafe, they continued to share each other's stories and dreams. Lucas was attracted by Megan's talent and tenacity, and Megan also felt sincerity and support in Lucas. Since then, they have met frequently and their feelings have gradually warmed up unknowingly. On a quiet night, Megan and Lucas strolled by the sea. The moonlight sprinkled on the sea, sparkling. Megan's mood was a little heavy. She hesitated for a long time and finally plucked up the courage to say to Lucas, "Lucas, I have some things in the past that have been hidden in my heart. I want to tell you today." Lucas stopped, turned around, looked at Megan gently held her hand and said, "No matter what, I'm listening." Megan took a deep breath and slowly told everything she had suffered. From the overwhelming false news, to the collapse of her career, betrayal by her lover, and finally she chose to commit suicide out of despair. Her voice was trembling with a trace of tears in her eyes. Then she told about her revenge on Mark and Brian after her rebirth, as well as her efforts and struggles these days. "I still don't understand why God gave me a chance to be reborn, but I know that I can't be as weak as before. I have to live for myself again." After listening to this, Lucas' eyes were slightly red. He hugged Megan tightly in his arms with heartache, patted her back gently and comforted her. "Megan, all that is over. I am really grateful to God for giving you this chance to be reborn so that I can meet you. You are so strong and brave. I will always be by your side and accompany you through every step in the future." Megan leaned in Lucas' arms, relieved. She is finally no longer the only person in the world who carries secrets. From now on, she has a shoulder to rely on and a partner to move forward with. In the warmth of love and the achievements of her career, Megan completely bid farewell to the haze of the past and embraced a new life full of hope with all her heart. With the sweet nourishment of love and the booming career, Megan strode forward to open a new chapter in her life. Looking back on the past, those dark days of being entangled in malicious rumors, career hitting the bottom, and love being betrayed have now become a solid stepping stone for her to move towards glory. Once facing the overwhelming false news she was unable to refute and could only cry secretly in the corner. When her career collapsed, she ran into walls everywhere and was full of despair. When she was abandoned by her lover, she was heartbroken and felt that the world had lost its color. But now everything is different. Megan is no longer the weak woman who can only tremble and let others bully her in the face of difficulties. The tempering after rebirth has made her heart extremely strong. Now she has become a strong person who controls her own destiny. Every challenge is regarded by her as an opportunity for growth. Every setback makes her will more determined. In her spare time, Megan often sits by the window of the studio with Lucas, and the table is covered with various film plans. Sometimes they bowed their heads in contemplation, And sometimes they discussed enthusiastically, from the theme of the script to the in-depth shaping of the characters, to the conception of the shooting scenes without missing any details. With his keen insight into the market, Lucas can always make suggestions with great commercial value. Megan, with his rich acting experience and unique understanding of art, injects soul into the film. Their ideas collide with each other and create brilliant sparks. In order to realize her artistic dream, Megan actively devoted herself to the preparation of the new film. She personally participated in the casting and carefully observed the audition performance of each actor, just to find the most suitable candidate for the role. On the set, she often communicated with the director and the photography team repeatedly, striving to present every shot perfectly. Lucas was busy running behind the scenes, coordinating resources from all parties to provide solid guarantees for the smooth shooting of the film. Megan knew that her life was becoming more and more exciting because of this passionate love and the career she loved. The road ahead may still be full of challenges, but she is not afraid. Because she knew that as long as she walked hand in hand with Lucas and carried her love for movies with her, nothing could stop her from continuing to shine and write her own legend.